She thought she was going to get a red buzzer?
There are certain moments in television history that do not simply air and fade away. They embed themselves into the collective memory of millions of people who were watching, and they refuse to let go. June 2018 produced one of those moments. A 13-year-old girl from the small village of Heselden in County Durham, England, walked onto the stage of America's Got Talent, looking like she might collapse from terror before the music even started. She told the judges she suffered from debilitating stage fright. She could barely raise her voice above a whisper when Melby tried to speak with her. And then the music began. What happened in the next few minutes would generate over 250 million views online, reduce a panel of professional judges to open-mouthed disbelief, and launch Courtney Hadwin into a stratosphere of fame that most artists spend their entire careers trying to reach. Simon Cowell, a man who has spent decades watching performers and who is not easily moved by anything, was visibly shaken. He called her a lion. He said he would never forget that first audition for as long as he lived. The world agreed with him. But what the world did not know was that the story was only just beginning, and the chapters that followed would be among the most painful any young artist has ever had to endure. Courtney had chosen Otis Redding's classic track, Hard to Handle, for her audition, and from the first note, the shy teenager who had barely been able to introduce herself simply ceased to exist. What replaced her was something electric and untamable. She dropped to her knees mid-performance. She threw her whole body into every lyric. She commanded that enormous stage the way performers twice her age with twice her experience rarely managed to. Howie Mandel did not wait for the song to finish before he had already made up his mind. He crossed the stage, pressed the golden buzzer, and sent gold confetti raining down from the ceiling. Backstage afterward, he told cameras that he had never been more excited in his career. He compared her to Darcy Lynn Farmer and Grace VanderWaal, two previous golden buzzer recipients who had gone on to win the entire competition, and he predicted openly and confidently that Courtney Hadwin was going to win season 13. Howie Mandel was not alone in that prediction. The judges, the audience, and more than 11 million live viewers on NBC had just watched something that felt, in the truest sense of the word, extraordinary. Album, she had stood on the stage as herself, and still, the response was not acceptance but resistance. She had also faced this in a far more personal setting during her school years in Heselden, where classmates reportedly mocked her voice and her talent at the very same time the world was celebrating her. Her parents had known, even before the America's Got Talent audition, that attention would bring cruelty with it. They had tried to protect her. But there is no protection from people who know your face and have decided to make your life difficult. What makes Courtney Hadwin's story genuinely extraordinary is not the audition, as breathtaking as it was. It is not the 250 million views or the standing ovations or the record deal. It is the fact that she survived everything that came after all of that, rebuilt herself on her own terms, and released an album that is entirely and recognizably her. Simon Cowell once called her a lion on that stage. He meant it in the sense of power and raw presence. But in the years that followed the show, Courtney Hadwin demonstrated a different kind of strength entirely. She was 20 when she finished writing an album that had taken nearly 6 years to complete, and 21 when she finally released it. She sold out headline shows in London. She toured the United Kingdom and Portugal. She rebuilt her presence as an independent artist who writes her own songs, controls her own narrative, and has said openly that she honestly could not care less what people think anymore. She writes the music for herself now. Anyone who connects with it is a bonus. The story of what happened to Courtney Hadwin after she left that stage in 2018 is a story that the music industry rarely tells honestly. A 13-year-old girl was handed the world and then quietly had it taken away by structural failures, creative mismatches, and an industry that did not know what to do with something that did not fit a familiar category. She spent years in rooms with people who did not understand her, writing songs she could not relate to, trying to become something she was not. And then, slowly and painfully and on her own timeline, she found her way back to the music that had made her who she was to begin with. The soul, the blues, the grit, the truth. Little Miss Jagged is not the debut album the industry tried to make for her. It is the debut album she made for herself. And that, in the end, is the most important difference of all. The turning point came when she finally connected with producer Kevin Bowe, a veteran whose credits include work with Etta James and Joe Cocker. He was someone who understood instinctively the music Courtney loved and the artist she was trying to become. In interviews about her debut album, she has said that Bo was the first producer who truly got her, and that working with him was when songwriting finally started to matter to her in a genuine way. He encouraged her not simply to accept songs handed to her, but to actually write alongside him, to dig into her own experiences and put them on the page. That process was difficult. Courtney has admitted that songwriting had never come naturally to her the way performing had. Her whole identity had been built around being on stage, not behind a pen. But Bo pushed her to be vulnerable in ways she had never been asked to be before. The result, after years of writing that she describes as her personal diary, was her debut album Little Miss Jagged, which was released in September 2025, nearly 7 years after the audition that made her famous. The album is 14 tracks of unapologetically personal music. Courtney has said it is the most vulnerable thing she has ever created, and that the experience of releasing it felt like handing the internet her private journal. Every song carries the weight of what she actually went through during those years of label collapse, creative suppression, public scrutiny, and personal growth. The title itself communicates everything. Her path has not been smooth. It has been jagged, uneven, and full of obstacles that no 13-year-old who walks onto a talent show stage could ever anticipate. One of the most important tracks is You Only Love Me When I Lie, which she has described as coming from a place of pure frustration at being expected to remain frozen as the shy little girl in the school uniform forever. She told her producer she needed to write about that specific feeling, the feeling of people refusing to let you grow up, and the result is the most soulful song on the album in her own words. The music video for the track was a deliberate artistic statement. She said making it was about showing the world she was a woman now, not a child, and that everyone grows up and changes. But when you become famous at a very young age, many people expect you to stay still while the whole world keeps moving. The backlash she faced when she showed that evolution publicly was painful and revealing in equal measure. When she performed at Festival Vila in Portugal in June 2025, wearing a bold, confident outfit that reflected who she had become, she received over 200 mocking messages within a single day. The same accusations that had followed her since 2018, that she was fake, that she was desperate, that she was trying too hard, resurfaced as if no time had passed at all. The cruelty of it was that the entire message of her album was about exactly this dynamic. People constructing a version of you in their minds and then punishing you for growing beyond it. She had written the song. The infrastructure that was supposed to support and launch her career simply collapsed beneath her feet. Courtney was a teenager who had just been given the biggest opportunity of her life, and now that opportunity had vanished before a single album had been released. In interviews years later, she described how the collapse left her feeling like she had to prove herself a little bit more than everyone else every single day. She said it placed her in a harder position than she had been in before the show, which is a devastating thing for any artist to have to admit about an experience that was supposed to change everything for the better. The label collapse was damaging enough on its own, but what accompanied it made things considerably worse. While she was under contract, Courtney had been placed into professional songwriting camps with producers and writers who, by her own account, did not understand her at all. She was handed songs that felt completely disconnected from who she was. She later described the material as pure Ariana Grande pop, which she said simply was not her. And she was right, because Courtney Hadwin's entire identity as a performer had been built on something completely different. She had discovered her musical soul by watching black and white footage of James Brown, Etta James, Tina Turner, and Aretha Franklin. She described the specific moment she realized what kind of artist she wanted to be as watching a black and white video of James Brown performing, "I Got You, I Feel Good," and feeling something light up inside her that had never lit up before. That was her. That was the music she wanted to make. But the industry, at least in those early years, was not interested in an 18-year-old making soul and blues music. They wanted something modern, something commercially safer. In chasing that, they nearly destroyed the very thing that had made her special in the first place. She eventually disappeared from public view almost entirely between 2019 and 2022. Followers assumed she had given up on music. Her social media was stripped back. There were no album announcements, no singles, no tours. What people did not know was that she was still working, still writing, still fighting for the music she knew she was capable of making. She was between 15 and 18 years old during those years, navigating an industry that had already dropped her once while simultaneously trying to figure out who she was as a human being growing up entirely in the scrutiny of the public eye. She has spoken about that period with remarkable honesty, describing it as deeply challenging and acknowledging the constant pressure she felt to prove she was more than simply the girl from that television show. Fame had arrived at 13. The tools to handle it had not arrived with it. Throughout the competition, she continued to build on that first impression in ways that left the judges scrambling for superlatives. Her quarterfinal performance of James Brown's "Papa's Got a Brand New Bag" earned her 4 simultaneous standing ovations. Her semifinal take on Steppenwolf's "Born to be Wild" had Simon Cowell saying that he had watched her trembling backstage before the show like a frightened child, and then she walked out onto that stage and became something else entirely. He said that transformation was precisely why he loved her. Heidi Klum praised her for bringing something raw and gritty at an age when most performers her age were chasing mainstream pop. The audience voted her through every single round. The internet broke records for her repeatedly. She was the frontrunner to win $1 million and the America's Got Talent title. And then the finale arrived and the votes were counted. And when the results were announced, the audience at the Dolby Theater reportedly gasped so loudly it was deafening. Courtney Hadwin had finished in 6th place. She had not even made the top 5. The winner was close-up magician Shin Lim, who had delivered remarkable performances, but whose victory over Courtney shocked nearly everyone watching. Fans flooded social media within minutes, calling the result unbelievable. The girl Howie had called this year's winner before she even competed in a single live show had been sent home without a trophy. But losing the competition turned out to be the least of what was coming for her. The record deal arrived fast. Simon Cowell partnered with Arista Records to sign Courtney to a multi-album contract, announced officially in December 2018. She was 14 years old. She described feeling super excited and lucky. Simon himself said she was an amazing artist and that he would never forget her first audition on that stage. Everything looked like it was falling into place. The music industry had embraced one of its most exciting young voices in years, and the machine was supposed to take it from there. It did not. Within a relatively short period, Psycho Music, Simon Cowell's label that had co-signed Courtney's deal, began winding down its operations. Arista's